And now, live from the Steele Twins recording studio in beautiful Traverse City, Michigan, and from Casa de Fraytown in Taylor, Michigan, the Outside Blitz is proud to present their hosts, the fabulous Scotty Fraytown and a Cannonball, Alex Steele.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Outside Blitz. Welcome in. I am your host, the fabulous one, Scotty Fraytown. Joining me from Traverse City, the Cannonball, Alex Steele. Alex, welcome back. We are 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. Just under 3 weeks. I'm super stoked. We're getting fired up. NFL draft 2026 around the corner. How are you doing today?
I am feeling great. You know, I've got my dinner right next to me. You know, I'll be eating that throughout the day. Although, you know, we started off, we offline. You know, we had a few technical difficulties.
Yeah.
A major boo-boo happened on my side. I got the dreaded blue screen of death. That has driven. You know, I'm going to throw myself on my own sword here because that has given rise to a fun new meme that everybody can try. So, the moment in the team's chat where my face, like the call dropped, I have this look on my face that I'm incredibly pensive.
Yes.
You know, kind of just staring off at it.
Right there.
Yeah. And then it's like,
thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of thought going on in here. So,
so what we'll do for you guys is I'm going to share that picture on our X page, on our Twitter page here. And for all of you that are watching, listening, I'll share it to our Facebook page too. For all of you watching and listening, caption that picture. I'm going to, when we get off this call, I want you all to caption that picture. What is Alex thinking? That's what I want to know from all of you out there in X and Twitter land and Facebook land. I want to find out, what do you think Alex was thinking in that picture? I'm going to share that with you all.
This is the part of the game where I just sit there, I look at the camera and I go, roast me. So yeah,
that's exactly what it's turned into.
You know, as you know what, if I'm gonna fall, I'm gonna fall on my own sword. But you know, if it gets us viewers, if this picks up steam,
listen, no publicity is no. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say no publicity is bad publicity, but in this situation, it makes for a good time. Well, folks, welcome back to the show. We are a week removed from our previous episode. We're going weekly here in the off season. I love it. It's been awesome. We've been keeping up with everything. I'm glad to get a lot of listeners and a lot of viewers to our live stream. So we've been getting people tuning in. Love to see that. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We got a new follower, Farhead, just joined on the Facebook there. So hey, welcome to the party. Oh yeah, it's not really the Facebook anymore. That just shows my age, but hey, it goes on par with the TikTok.
The TikTok.
Exactly. But hey, we got news around the league, Alex. We got stuff going on around the NFL. Let's talk about it. And the most recent news popped up just a couple hours ago. Let's jump into it. The Jags, man, they go out and sign defensive end Travon Walker to a 4-year, $110 million extension. I don't know how I feel about it. I got to be honest with you. But, you know, for him, it's very much a cha-ching moment. Look, Travon Walker, he gets drafted in the first round, 4 years, 110. It's 27.5 per year. So, I mean, technically speaking, it doesn't make him one of the highest paid defensive ends in all of football as of right now. You know, a lot of these defensive ends, these edge rushers are getting paid upward of 40, 41, 42 million if you're one of the top dogs. We just had a guy, if I'm not mistaken, get paid 45. I mean, it's just a ridiculous number. Travon Walker, is he a I don't know that he's a top tier defensive end, top tier edge rusher, but 27.5 seems about right for him, I guess. I'm not exactly entirely sold on Travon Walker when he got picked up, if you recall, number 1 overall before Aiden Hutchinson. A little surprising when he just kind of sped up the boards that year. Alex, where are you at on this?
So on the one hand, you know, obviously the organization has some stock in this young man. Obviously, they didn't want to do the 5th-year option because he was drafted in 22. And it's not like he hasn't been productive. He's had over 100 tackles and 99 assists. He recorded 27 and a half sacks, and he's had 3 forced fumbles and 2 fumble recoveries. Even had a pick for 35 yards. So, he's doing his job. He's creating chaos, but has that translated into larger success for the Jacksonville Jaguars? I would say no.
Yeah, I mean,
and then the proof's in the pudding. They basically fell flat on their face a couple of years ago when the Texans basically stole the division from under them. And then you had that one year where the Jaguars were absolutely pounding on the Los Angeles Chargers, and then the Chargers roared back to win the game. So it hasn't translated to deep playoff runs, but at the same time, you kind of need them around.
Well, and a lot of times when we're talking about defensive ends and things like that, and we've had this conversation with Boots, and Boots has kind of has alluded to this. There's some guys as edge rushers that are the guy, right? We talk about that. And then there's guys out there that are considered the other guy, right? That kind of secondary piece. We always talked about, and I love Brian Robeson, but was he Everson Griffin? No, he wasn't, right? So, I mean, we talk about who the other guy is in that equation. And in this particular case, I feel like Trayvon Walker is sort of the other guy. Because, I mean, if you look at his numbers, I mean, he doesn't have bad numbers by any stretch of the imagination, especially the last 2 years. I mean, a 68.2 overall grade. He's got a 65 pass rush grade, 69 run defense grade. You fast forward to 25, around the same, 67 overall, 68 pass rush, 64 run defense. So, I mean, it's not like these are bad numbers. They're decent numbers. Are they numbers that scream number 1 overall pick? Probably not, right? But he's still a good player. I would just kind of call him if you wind up getting a really good edge rusher, a really good main guy, maybe we're having a different conversation, and I don't know if he's ever going to be worth the 45 million. He's developed nicely. I mean, especially from that abysmal 2022 and 2023 seasons. I mean, the 2023 season was horrible for him, but to me, I just look at him like he's the other guy, and that's kind of what he is in my world. But at 27 and a half, given what edge rushers are getting right now, it does seem like a decent deal. It's about right on point. In fact, I'd probably say, the Jags probably gave up about $3 million, to really secure that deal, because I mean, you could have probably signed him for 25 and called it a day, but that's all right. I mean, they get their edge rusher, they keep him around. You could have probably, like I said, signed him for 25 as opposed to 27 and a half, but it is what it is. But Trayvon Walker, he winds up sticking around with the Jags. I mean, I'm not entirely mad at it for the Jags. I think they, like you said, they keep their guy in the door. They keep some continuity. And I'm not entirely upset with that. Another thing that the Jags were doing here, and they go out and pick up the 5th-year option on offensive tackle Anton Harrison. He was originally selected 27th overall out of Oklahoma in the 2023 NFL draft. Last year, he posted a 71.5 PFF grade with a 75.6 pass blocking grade. He's kind of become a stalwart on that offensive line. I think this is a really smart thing for the Jags to do here, picking up that 5th-year option of Harrison. One of the better offensive tackles out there right now. He's definitely a way above average offensive tackle. Love what he's doing. Where are you at on Anton Harrison, Alex?
I'm digging it. You've shown us the numbers. The grades are right there. Plus, I mean, you definitely need an offensive lineman to protect your quarterback. I mean, we stress this all the time on the show. Anytime we have an opportunity to shout out the unsung heroes, this is one of them. So good on the Jaguars for investing, not only in this offensive lineman, but their quarterback by proxy.
Yep.
It's they got themselves a pretty good pick here. 27. That's I don't know if they traded down to get him. I don't remember. That was 2 years. That was 3 years ago now.
Right.
The time's going by like crazy, but
I know.
But at the same, but it's a good investment. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm with it. I think this is a smart play. I mean, his kid out of Oklahoma. I mean, he's been great for the last several years here for the Jags. I think, like I said, he's kind of a stalwart on that offensive line. It's a good pickup, or a good retainer, if you will, because they're going to be having him for the next 2 seasons. So I'm okay with that. Anton Harrison sticking around with the Jags. I think that's a smart play, and he matches what Liam Cohen is doing over there. We saw how effective the Jaguars' offense has been. So, he kind of, again, continuity. We talked about it, with Walker. They do it again with Harrison. So a smart play there. Next up, let's talk about the Raiders. Raiders. They go out and sign quarterback Kirk Cousins to a 5-year, $172 million deal. And in reality, it's actually a 1-year fully guaranteed $20 million deal that also contains a club option for 2 years at $80 million per Adam Schefter. So, I mean, Kirk Cousins, basically it's a 1-year prove it deal. Whether or not he's going to stick around, we'll see after this season, right? I mean, I would assume that the main idea here is that he's going to be a bridge quarterback for Fernando Mendoza, who is the, consensus number 1 overall. I don't think Kirk's a bad quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. He's a good quarterback, but I don't know if it's the best spot for him to be with the Vegas Raiders. You're in a situation where there's no offensive line and you're not really the most mobile quarterback out there, and you're going to get the hell beat out of you. I mean, by this, it's baffling. The one thing that I will say for Kirk, though, is he does have notoriety with Clint Kubiak. They have played together. Well, Kubiak was the offensive coordinator in Minnesota, if you remember, when Kirk was over there at one point, and Kirk threw a lot over there, and he actually was doing pretty decent in the Kubiak system for as much as he was throwing. Kubiak wound up getting let go because his system wasn't balanced. Mike Zimmer liked power run, and there we go. But at the end of the day, realistically, Clint Kubiak, Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator, seems to have something here, and he's going to let Kirk Cousins throw the ball. Do you think Kirk starts over Fernando Mendoza? Do you think that they're going to walk into the season saying, "Hey, Kirk, you're our guy," or is it going to be the Mendoza show and Kirk's going to be sitting down like he was for Michael Penix?
I'm going 2 ways on this, but the first question that I must ask before anything else is, who the heck is Kirk Cousins' agent? I want that guy working for me. I mean, how was he able to get Kirk Cousins these monster money deals? I mean, first it was the first they broke the bank in Atlanta, and then that happened with Michael Penix, like you said. They decided to start Penix over Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins ended up being like a glorified backup. So the question that must be answered in this regard is: are the Raiders smart enough to identify the situation that they're finding themselves in, rather? And on the one hand, I could see that. I could see Kirk Cousins starting the first year, because that's what you're supposed to do. When you get your rookie quarterback, when you get your franchise quarterback of the future, the tried and true method that we've preached on this show, it may not work for everybody, and sometimes they're not always right. But for better or for worse, sit your quarterback down and let him learn behind the veteran for a year, maybe a year and a half. And then, have him ready in case your starter gets hurt, And, but the opposite is also true. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, they do start Fernando Mendoza. They say, okay, we're starting this kid right out of the gate. You know, they're like, okay, but you have a competent quarterback that can get you through a couple of games if somebody, you know, cleans Mendoza's clock and he has to sit out a couple games. You know, now granted, you got to make sure you invest in that offensive line because, you know, whatever plan you go with, if that offensive line is a sieve for these defensive players, it's not going to mean anything. So I'm going to put my money on that Mendoza starts because the Raiders aren't that forward thinking. In my opinion, the way I'm on the outside looking at, I'm looking at this and going, I can totally see Fernando Mendoza starting because the fans might pressure the organization into getting him to start, or you know somebody you know with the owner's ear, you know maybe even Tom Brady. You know Tom Brady, as part owner of the Raiders, you know might be the only smart person in the room going, hey, put Cousins out there first. But you know pressure and internal pressure from the organization. And it's like, hey, we got a star on our hands. We got to get him on TV. I mean, honestly, you could go either way, but I'm going to put my money on they start Mendoza. And, you know, and whether or not that leads to success is up to fate to decide.
Yeah, I am totally with you here. I don't think the Raiders are very forward thinking. I could see Mendoza starting in that situation, but at the end of the day, I would hope that Tom Brady, who sat behind Drew Bledsoe, would go, hey, the best quarterbacks sit. And it shows a lot of times the best quarterbacks will actually sit if it's, you know, and look at right now, Patrick Mahomes, still one of the best quarterbacks in football. I mean, as much as we get tired of hearing about Patrick Mahomes, at the end of the day, and we make jokes about Chris Collinsworth jizzing in his pants about Patrick Mahomes, right? At the end of the day, you know, Patrick Mahomes is still one of the best quarterbacks in football. And what did he do? He sat for a year behind Alex Smith. So, I mean, realistically, should you sit Mendoza? If you've got Kirk there, sit him and see what happens. And it could be a situation where Kirk Cousins is becoming like the new Tyrod Taylor of a generation, where he just gets signed by a team and then he winds up being the starter for 6 games and then he gets hurt and then the young kid comes in and takes over like Tyrod did for Justin Herbert and so on and so forth. We'll have to see what goes on with that. But to me, the best quarterbacks sit, and they should trot Cousins out there. What they should do and what they're going to do, 2 different things, clearly. But, you know, that's kind of what we're looking at.
What do we know? We're 2 dudes and sometimes 3 dudes sitting in the chairs talking into a microphone. But more often than not, my friend, have we not seen the future? Have we not called things and have them happen? Yeah, I'm telling you.
That's exactly it.
More often than not, we've gotten stuff right.
People are sleeping on us, I'm telling you, but they shouldn't be, because, hey, we were the ones that predicted, for example, J.J. McCarthy. We predicted he wasn't going to be good, and here we are. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about, speaking of quarterback problems, the Jets. Head coach Aaron Glenn says that he has, quote unquote, no doubt that the quarterback will be Geno Smith for their starting role in 2026. He says, and I quote, he's our guy.
Oh, boy.
Geno Smith going to be the starting quarterback for the Jets. And with that, Aaron Glenn's tenure as the Jets head coach has come to an end. That's kind of where I'm going. What a disaster.
I mean, listen, in Aaron Glenn's defense, he went to the Jets, which is a government cheese organization. Number 2, he's basically got dealt a very raw deal hand. You know, it's like he got a beer hand, and he was like 2 cards away from a straight. You know, and instead it's just King of Hearts, Queen of Spades, 7 of clubs, 2 of diamonds, you know, and an ace. Yeah. I mean, you got ace high and nothing else. So, as far as go ahead.
But here's the question of the day when it comes to the Jets, because, you know, one guy that's been consistently mocked to the Jets in the NFL draft has been Ty Simpson, the quarterback from the University of Alabama. He's a guy that's been talked about as a potential guy to fall to them. I could see it. I could see the New York Jets winding up with Simpson. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. If they do wind up with Simpson, then I could see Simpson easily. And I it's not a knock on Geno Smith, but at this stage, I could see Simpson taking that job. You know, it just is what it is, right?
Right.
I don't think there's any question in anybody's mind that Simpson would probably take that job if Geno Smith starts out as the starter. But Geno Smith, again, this could be another, and I keep using his name. I feel like Tyrod Taylor's going to beat the shit out of me when he sees me, but you know, he could be the Tyrod Taylor of a generation here, where he's starting for you know, a team for 6 games, and then the team doctor, you know, punctures his lung by accident. Dude, craziness.
If that happens for a 3rd time, the man needs to sue. I think didn't he sue anyway? But
I think he may have.
Yeah, I mean, geez, I mean, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That stuff.
Yeah.
And going back to Geno Smith, and you know, we've seen this happen before. You know, with Russ Wilson and Justin Fields with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, Russ Wilson started the first couple games, and then Justin Fields ended up beating him out by week 6. You know, that was one of our hashtag bold predictions, which, you know, if nothing else, you know, stay tuned, kids. In the next couple of weeks, while we're waiting for the draft, we might cook up some of these, you know, because those are always fun to do, to figure out, what's going to happen and what actually happens.
Yeah, the bold prediction, we'll be putting those out there probably post-draft, I think, is where we're going to head with those. But you know, as far as this goes, look, Geno Smith, look, if you go into this season with Geno Smith as your starter, you're not going to be the head coach of the Jets for much longer. It's just the truth. Geno Smith's about done. He had his moment in the sun when he was in Seattle, right? And he did fine there. But I mean, he went to the Raiders and it was awful. He goes to, and I don't understand what in the hell Aaron Glenn's thinking about making Geno Smith the starting quarterback, and hopefully he just kind of comes to his senses. But it's kind of the same sentiment we had as you made Justin Fields your starter last year, and Justin Fields wasn't ready for that role and to take on that much of a workload with the Jets last year. We saw that. This is kind of an interesting spot for the Jets to be in again, putting in a veteran quarterback that's kind of meh.
Yeah, here's the deal. And again, this is in Aaron Glenn's defense. What does he have to play with? He has jack squat in the quarterback room. So, you know, when you have a quarterback room full of bums, then you're going to just put your best bum out on. That's all you can do. That's all you can do. You know, Aaron Glenn may very well be, you know, kicked to the curb, you know, at the end of this season. But at the same time, you kind of feel bad for him. It's like, first of all, you're with the Jets, but second of all, you have nothing. You're old Mother Hubbard. You got nothing in the cupboard.
Yep, that's it. One thing he does have, however, the Jets did pick up the 5th-year option on edge rusher Will McDonald IV. He was selected 15th overall by the Jets out of Iowa State in 2023. Posted a 71 pass rush grade or higher in each of the last 2 seasons. He does struggle in run defense a little bit, but he was a solid pass rusher, solid edge rusher for the Jets. Fits exactly what Aaron Glenn likes. Hardcore pass rushing. That's what he does. He likes to have those solid edge rushers, and that's what he's going to do with Will McDonald. He's just going to have him blitzing the quarterback all day long. They probably need another edge rusher over there with the Jets. Wouldn't surprise me if they went into this draft and picked one up with all the moves that they've made, especially, I mean, if you recall, I believe they do have 2 first-rounders this year. Got an opportunity here. I think they could wind up going after an edge rusher. Could be Arvell Reese, could be a few others, but they have options. So we're going to see what the Jets do. But Will McDonald, solid edge rusher for them, good defensive end, and they keep him in the door, get that 5th-year option, get him on the discount, keep him on the rookie scale contract. I like this move a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you need all the help you can get, number one. And number two, if nothing else, we've always said that the New York Jets have had, you know, pretty stout defenses. Now, granted, your best corner skipped town for Indianapolis last year, you know, So now it's like, you want to talk about old Mother Hubbard, but I mean, this is a smart move. I mean, it's almost a no-brainer. It's like, a man with that capability, you definitely want to keep him on, and especially if it's a fifth-year option gimmick. And as you mentioned, the New York Jets do have 2 first-round picks. Our fine friends at Tankathon obviously have the Jets picking second, but then they got pick number 16 from Indianapolis. So, if nothing else, I mean, they're setting themselves up to try to make a run, but I really can't see them getting out of the doldrums of the AFC East. I mean, it's going to be it's going to be a contest, in my opinion, between the Jets and the Dolphins for who's going to take last place.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins are on the fast track, if I'm being honest. But I mean, if you look at the Jets situation and what Aaron Glenn is doing, a lot of what they're kind of creating is very similar to the way that the Detroit Lions handled things, 3-4 years ago. Aaron Glenn comes from that Detroit Lions team where they collected first round picks like it was going out of style. I mean, one season they had 6 picks in the top 100, if you recall, and we had actually called it when they had executed the Matt Stafford for Jared Goff trade. We sat there and said, man, this Lions team's going to end up really dangerous if they draft well. And sure enough, they drafted extremely well, and the Lions wound up, being where they are. And I wouldn't even say that they necessarily drafted well per se, as much as it was, hey, we're at the top of the draft and we can get, the most that we can get. But 6 picks in the top 100, it's far less misses, if you will, so, I mean, that's kind of what the Jets are aiming for. They're aiming for a very similar situation where they have all these picks in the top rounds, right? And they're going to be able to get away with having all those top picks and walking out with top tier players in the draft. And I mean, they've executed it. It kind of stinks that they had to get rid of Sauce Gardner to do it. But Sauce goes over to Indianapolis and they wind up, I think they walked out with 2 first round picks, if I'm not mistaken, on that trade. I think they got one for next year as well. So they're going to be stacking first round selections over the course of the next couple of years. And you're going to see the New York Jets start to procure players that are and acquire players that are great, that could be very well be all-stars, So we're going to find out what the Jets wind up doing. One corner that doesn't play for them anymore, Ja'Sir Taylor, he goes to the Bengals on a 1-year deal. The corner previously played for the Chargers and the Jets, 2022 pick in the 6th round out of Wake Forest. He's seen 12 starts in the league, primarily a special teams guy. He goes to Cincinnati. But the bigger move that Cincinnati made, and I want to talk about this one because I feel like this is one of those underrated signings from the Cincinnati Bengals. They go out and sign former Patriot safety Kyle Duggar to a 1-year deal. This dude was playing great ball. And then he winds up going with Mike Vrabel's system. And for whatever reason, Mike Vrabel just straight up did not like this dude. He did not like Kyle Duggar. Kyle Duggar winds up getting shipped out of town. They don't want him. He gets picked up by the Bengals. I think he's a really good fit for the Bengals secondary. I like this move a lot. And on a 1-year deal for cheap, you get a good tackling safety. I actually really like the Kyle Duggar pickup for Cincinnati. I'm surprised more people haven't been more hyped about that. I think it's a really solid pickup, don't you?
Yes, and if you take a look at his production in 2025, in his first 7 games with New England, he only had 17 tackles, including 7 solo and 10 assists, but he didn't really do a whole much. He didn't really do a whole lot, excuse me. But then, he went to Pittsburgh. And then he played 9 games with the Steelers. Next thing you know, he's got 42 total tackles, a sack, and 2 interceptions for 73 yards and a touchdown. So it's like it's night and day. So you're absolutely right. Something about that Mike Vrabel system, the staff, the coaching, or just the way that Kyle Duggar was set up. It just didn't pan out in New England. But New England's loss at this point now is the Cincinnati Bengals' gain. Now, Granted, I mean, we've joked many times on this show that the Cincinnati Bengals defense itself is a major sev. But this is good. This is good for deep downfield when trying to defend against the deep pass. So any help that you can get, that it'll help your cause. But at the same time, the Bengals need to make a whole lot more moves to be competitive. I mean, Joe Burrow can only do so much, and when he's healthy, that's the big thing, And Jamar Chase is one of the best wide receivers in football when he has somebody that can throw him the ball. So, but with Kyle Duggar on staff, it's a good step in the right direction.
I think Kyle Duggar, if he's used correctly, Cincinnati can really find a lot of untapped potential when it comes to him. If you look at his numbers from 2020 and 2021 and 2022, and 2022 being the big year where, he had a 78.4 overall grade, 78.3 coverage grade, 76.7 run defense grade. I mean, he ranked 8th overall at the safety position in 2022. And then it makes you wonder what happened from 2023, 24, and 25, where, his numbers seem to fall off. His pass rush grades were great. Frankly, I just think New England was utilizing him wrong over there, to be honest with you. I just don't think they were doing him any favors. Team and scheme is something we preach on this show, and team and scheme matters. Just one of those times where I just don't think he fit the team or the scheme. If you recall, they've been through some coaching changes. Mike Vrabel took over last year. Before that, they had, I forget his name. His name escapes me at the moment. But, they've shifted away from the Belichick era, and Bill Belichick's scheme seemed to work out for Kyle Duggar. So a lot of questions about it, a lot of issues as it pertains to Kyle Duggar. We're going to see if he can kind of, get a career resurgence here in his 8th year in the league. With the Cincinnati Bengals. Speaking of Patriots corners, we got to talk about this one real quick. Former Patriots, Cowboys, and Vikings corner Stephon Gilmore. He retires after 13 seasons. Guy was a former All-Pro. At one point, he was the best corner in football. Stephon Gilmore, man, he goes out the door. Big-time legacy here for him. He's going to be 13 seasons, and he's had a couple Super Bowls, if I'm not mistaken. Played really well with the Vikings. He was our corner number 1 over there for a minute. I really like Steph Gilmore. A lot of people were the Vikings fans get a little fickle, he's lost a step and this and that. The guy's 35 for Christ's sake, like playing professional football. Like, of course, with all these gazelles running out here, he's not going to get every single thing. But at the end of the day, Steph Gilmore, there we go. He's retired. Happy retirement to him.
You were pounding the table for quite a while, say, hey, because again, the Vikings need corners, and you were like, hey, go get Stephon Gilmore. He's out there. Why has nobody signed him? And then you saw it come across the wire last year. It was either last year or the year before that, and year before, and we saw how the Vikings, handled business back then. But now it's time. 13 years is a long time to be in the NFL. So hats off to you. And we come to the end of the road. Steph had to let go.
This is the worst karaoke ever.
No more Super Bowls, no more Pro Bowls, only ice cream balls. Oh,
I could go for some ice cream.
Me too.
I could go for some ice cream right about now. But in any case, oh, Jesus Christ. But, at the end of the day, Steph Gilmore, he did really well for the Vikings for a while. He was a good corner. Hats off to him. Happy retirement to Stephon Gilmore. Speaking of the Vikings, they go out and pick up the 5th-year option on wide receiver Jordan Addison, who they picked up in the first round back in 2023, 23rd overall out of USC. Look, Jordan Addison, he's a great wide receiver, too, for Minnesota. He's shown he can be a wide receiver 1 in this league. He's had a little case of the drop skis last year, as you like to call him. He led the league, if I'm not mistaken, in drops, but realistically, he was probably J.J. McCarthy's favorite target, if I'm being honest. I thought he was more of a favorite target than Justin Jefferson, which was a little surprising, given how good Justin Jefferson is. A lot of questions about off the field nonsense when it comes to Jordan Addison. I think with this 5th-year option, it gets the Vikings through this year. But if I'm honest, I don't think Jordan Addison's going to stay with the Vikings after his 4th year. I think the Vikings are going to be picking up the 5th-year option. It's almost like a tag and trade, really. Pick up the 5th-year option, send him out the door. That's kind of what it seems like it's going to be to me. What say you?
Well, you made mention briefly about, his on the field, stuff, but it's equally important to focus on the off the field stuff. He's had a lot of off the field shenanigans, and ultimately that's what's going to get him out the door. Now, granted, a needy team at wide receiver can find the talent and go, all right, let's go pick this kid up. And, hopefully he's learned from his mistakes. We can coach him up. But I see it. Yeah. I mean, I can see how this is a way to okay, this is also kind of like a prove it deal. It's like, okay, you got one shot here. You got the 5th-year option. We're ending out your rookie deal. But if you could show us some growth, not just on the field, but off, then maybe the bag will come to you, or will at least keep you on the team. But at the same time, I would not be surprised if halfway, before the trade deadline, we could see a move. We could see him get him, can they get a first rounder for him? Probably not. I mean,
well, and then it depends, really. I mean, if you look at Jordan Addison's situation, you keep talking about the off the field stuff, and I'm with you. If it's not going 140 miles an hour down the freeway, it's being drunk and passed out at a red light. It's just something ridiculous that comes with the bullshit about Jordan Addison. It's just a lot of bullshit. It's repeatedly, it's over and over. I feel like it's every offseason we're talking about something stupid that Jordan Addison does. But at the end of the day, he's a great receiver. I think on a lot of teams, he's a number one. On a lot of different teams out there, he's better than a lot of the guys that they have. So the question therein becomes, is a team willing to trade for him? I think if the Vikings are winning and let's say we get to the trade deadline and they're winning, I don't think Jordan Addison goes anywhere. But if the Vikings are losing and they're, we get to the trade deadline and, they're 2-6, we might be having a different conversation about the Vikings and what they're doing with Jordan Addison. And if they're going to send him out the door and save the cap space and get some draft capital, he's still very young. He's a young receiver. Teams could use him. And I could see him being a commodity at the trade deadline and the Vikings aren't winning games. So, I mean, there's questions about Jordan Addison. We're going to find out. There's questions about the maturity. So that is going to be a big one. Another guy who's had questions about his maturity recently is Puka Nacua, wide receiver for the Rams. This week he has checked into rehab after the recently surfaced legal allegations of him biting a woman and making anti-Semitic remarks and all kinds of stuff. Just all kinds of silly stuff. Exactly, a big dummy. So, at the end of the day, when it comes to Puka Nacua, I mean, it's probably a good thing that he's checking himself into rehab. I mean, clearly a problem has been identified here, in a big way. A lot of issues when it comes to Puka Nacua. I think he had a haircut too. I noticed he had cut all his hair off. Somebody got a picture of him walking into rehab. But we're going to see what happens with Puka Nacua down the stretch. This is to me, this is a step in the right direction as far as him getting cleaned up and kind of figuring things out. We knew he had kind of gone off the rails. We just didn't really know how far. There was a lot of stuff going on from about the middle of last year to now where we're like, what in the hell is going on with Puka Nacua? I think if he gets cleaned up, we're going to see the best version of Puka Nacua down the stretch here. He's just a lot of silly stuff going on. Sometimes the stardom gets to some people's heads. It's a good thing that he's kind of figured it out and he's getting himself cleaned up and back where he needs to be as a competitor. What do you think? So the question that I have is, who figured it out? Was it Puka who figured it out? Or did Sean McVay, pull him into a locker room and say, listen, you're our top receiver. You're Matt Stafford's favorite target.
knock this off. We're making a run to the Super Bowl, and we can't have you dragging us down. Now, I'm going to give Puka Nacua, I personally, as much as my opinion, is matters, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say, all right, Puka had the light bulb go off in his head, and he figured out, all right, this is getting out of control. Let me pump the brakes before this becomes a real problem,
Yep.
And whether or not that was what happened, I mean, that's what happened to get to this point. That's what's going to happen going forward, is that this is going to get handled before it gets out of control. And the hope is that when it comes to season time, when we get to opening day, that he'll be ready and raring to go. Heck, even if we get to spring training, because that's coming up pretty soon too. I mean, post draft, they're going to be running camps. They're going to be doing workouts. They're going to be tinkering with the playbook. And we want to make sure that Puka Nacua is fully capable all throughout those situations as well, because what happened with Brandon Ayuk a couple years ago, he missed out on summer camp, and then he got horribly injured, and then this wide receiver who was supposed to blow up the world in San Francisco ended up blowing up his own career. So I mean,
if you look at this Puka Nacua situation, to me, I do think there is some, in my opinion, some sort of truth to the idea that the Rams organization probably said, hey, listen, we're trying to make a run here. I don't need your off the field bullshit. We don't need that right now. We just went down. We traded for Trent McDuffie, right? We just went and picked up 2 all-pro corners from Kansas City, both of them. They picked up both of their top tier corners. They just made the moves to create a defensive situation where their secondary is damn near second to none. They got Cam Curl over there. You've got an excellent pass rush up there. You have Jared Verse, you have Braden Fisk up there. You have a lot of good pieces. And now we're in a situation where we want to make a Super Bowl run. And you are over here clowning around, making it so we're not going to be able to make a Super Bowl run because of your off the field bullshit. The organizations like the Rams don't have the patience for stuff like that. They just don't. And they will cut a man loose. They're a quality organization. I have no doubt in my mind that they will go, hey, Puka, you better fucking figure it out. That's no doubt in my mind. And part of me thinks that Sean McVay, in my opinion, probably had a hand in that as well. So there's a lot of questions about what's going on with Puka, but we're glad he's getting the help he needs. That's a positive. Also, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. Mm-hmm. The Bills making moves here. They go out and pick up the 5th-year option of tight end Dalton Kincaid, originally drafted 25th overall out of Utah in the 2023 draft. Dalton Kincaid, he's a stalwart on the Bills offense. Mm-hmm. And here we are. They go out and I like this. I think it just makes sense. You pick up the 5th-year option of one of your best pass catchers. He's been phenomenal. Him and Dawson Knox together are both really solid. A nice 1-2 punch at tight end. Yep. I like this move. How about you?
Yeah, he's a big, nasty tight end from Utah. And we've talked about how the University of Utah, those Utes, those tight ends, they're, hey, you're big. Why don't you want to play? You want to play tight end? You want to play football? Yeah. That's just what happens. They just churn them out. And when we saw him get drafted 5 years ago, we knew he was going to be a star. And he's definitely been a very positive influence for the Bills. They just can't seem to get over the hump. And more so last year. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were nowhere to be seen in the playoffs last year, and they still choked. So it's like, at some point, something's got to give. So, but if you're going to make a move, Dalton Kincaid makes sense to keep on for the 5th year before you start thinking about, okay, do we pay the man the big bag? Which I think they should. They should retain his services for at least 3 more years. But, we'll have to say, first of all, can he stay healthy? He has for the most part, but weird stuff happens in the NFL. You see this guy that, I think Nico Collins is for an example. Nico Collins, for several years was C.J. Stroud's favorite target with the Texans, and then he got hurt and sat out. I think either he has sat out or is going to sit out a vast majority of either a previous season or this season. I forget.
I think you're thinking of Tank Dell.
Tank Dell, you're right. Sorry.
Yes.
Same thing. Same difference.
Yeah.
Tank is an offensive weapon. All of a sudden he gets hurt, and as far as Dalton Kincaid is concerned, just keep him healthy, and he should pay dividends for your organization.
Yeah, when it comes to these tight ends out of the University of Utah, they just like big guys. That's just all it is. I mean, Utah is just like you said. I mean, it's like, oh, you're a big guy, you want to play ball? No, I don't give a shit what skill set you have. You're big. Let's just go play football. And I mean, they beat the hell out of USC a couple of years ago in the Pac-12 championship. Just kicked the ever-loving shit out of us. And I say us. I'm a USC fan. For those of you who don't know, they kicked the shit out of us in the Pac-12 championship, and it sucked. It just beat on us, and that's because of the size differential was insane. And Utah likes to run those big 3 tight end sets, and Dalton Kincaid was a part of that. And a lot of that run really created the notoriety for him to get drafted in the first round the way he did to the Bills. He's been one of their better weapons. He's a good blocker. He's a good pass catcher. Just a big-bodied, nasty guy. I like it a lot. I think this is a really a solid deal for him. For a guy that came out of the 2023 draft. And you mentioned the Chiefs. Well, let's talk about the Chiefs. The Chiefs are, in my opinion, in a desperate rebuild here. They just go out and they sign former first-round pick Kaiir Elam. Oh. Now, this is a term that you have pointed out that anytime you hear somebody be called former first-round pick, generally speaking, it's almost like a derogatory term at this point, where it's just like, ugh, that's yucky. But previously, Kaiir Elam, if you remember, he was the 22nd overall pick by the Buffalo Bills in 2022. The Chiefs, if you recall, this offseason, they've lost both of their starting corners. They lost Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson. So McDuffie was traded to the Rams, and then Jalen Watson was actually picked up by the Rams in free agency. So the Rams just poached their corners. Elam was previously traded to the Cowboys by the Bills in exchange for a 2025 fifth and 2026 seventh round selection. In 2024, that happened. But he's been sort of floating around the league. He's considered by and far one of the Bills' biggest misses in free agency, or I'm sorry, in the NFL draft, rather. Do you think that Kaiir Elam will have a career resurgence with the Chiefs, or is that just wishful thinking?
I am going to probably put my money on wishful thinking. I mean,
that's where I'm at.
Yeah, because again, in outside Blitz land, at least, the term former first round pick is pretty much a death sentence. Now, Is it a death sentence in the NFL? Time will tell, and it depends. But around these parts, you kind of make this face. Yeah. If you're playing the home game, watching us on video, you know what I'm talking about. That emoji, that gets passed around quite a lot in the group chat. But as far as the Kansas City Chiefs go, I mean, I'm not as concerned about their ability to, coach players up. I mean, you got Andy Reid there. I mean, come on. Yeah. And Steve Spagnuolo, I believe, is still the defensive coordinator, unless I'm mistaken. I know he was for several years. When
he still is.
Yeah, you got a defensive coordinator like that, a defensive mind like that, you should be fine. Speaking of the Chiefs, we're going to take a very quick detour here, and as we all know, we're keeping tabs on one Justin Joly, tight end out of North Carolina State, We may have said this on the program before, but we'll go ahead and say it again that, the kid, he had a 30-day visit with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I got an update from Justin's father, Rob Jolie. Shout out. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
You mean a top 30 visit?
Top 30 visit, yes. Okay, yeah. So thank you. The number 30 was in there somewhere, but the results are in from that visit, and the Chiefs were over the moon for the guy. Yep. He said he was the man. Obviously he was able to high point the ball. They were very, very, very impressed with Justin. And you said on this show, a couple of weeks ago, and you said that if there was anybody that the Chiefs were going to pick up in the draft at tight end, Justin Jolie might be one of those guys.
Yeah, I think Justin Jolie's a great fit for what the Chiefs do at the tight end position. And I like Noah Gray as much as the next guy, but Noah Gray is not a pass-catching tight end. He's a blocking tight end. Mm-hmm. And if you really look at what they have over there in the situation that the Chiefs have created, I do think Justin Jolie is going to wind up being their big pass-catching tight end over there to replace Travis Kelce in time. And I understand Travis Kelce just signed a 3-year deal, but do I really think that Travis Kelce is going to play out the entirety of that 3-year deal? Probably not. Jolie he makes a lot of sense for the Chiefs, and there seems to be a lot of interest throughout the NFC West as far as what Justin Jolie, whether it's the Chiefs or the Broncos. It seems like the Broncos are interested in Justin Jolie as well. Yep. And there's a lot of interest, particularly in the AFC West. It looks like. So, get ready for that. I think he's going to be an excellent pickup. He's going to be a stud for one of these teams. Both teams have a need at the tight end position, both the Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. Don't be surprised. I mean, even though the Vikings do have TJ Hawkinson, and I'm not just saying it because of us, because I'm a Vikings fan, but it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Justin Jolie was viewed as a potential pickup by the Minnesota Vikings either. There are teams out there that could use this guy's services. He's going to be a special player in this year's draft. To me, he's a day 2 guy. And if it really has nothing to do with his skill set per se, as much as it does the fact that a tight end's not considered a quote unquote premium position, because if it was considered a premium position, he'd be easily day 1, probably top 15, in my opinion. I think he's phenomenal.
Yep. So he'll be wrapping up, going back over my conversations with Rob. He will have been traveling, all day yesterday and today. So about by the end of this weekend, we should be able to find out, what Denver thinks of this young man. We for one will have our ears very close to the grindstone to apprise his progress. So get ready for that.
We're on years ago, last year we were on Kane Medrano and Bashal Tutin watch. Now we're on Justin Jolie watch. That's
one of the great things that we have about the combine. We get these 1 or 2 players that just stand out for you. George Gums again is another one I want to keep an eye on because we talked about him last episode when we talked about defensive ends. Another talent that I think, didn't really get a fair shake in Florida, but late bloomer to the NFL. So we're definitely on watch with that.
But the combine, the one thing about the combine that I really love that we do as far as Justin Jolie, for example, is we get to meet some of the families of some of these players, and it does create a whole different narrative. Based on, what we see on the field combined with what we hear from their family. Obviously the family of Kane Medrano, we got to see them last year and we met them. We learned a lot about him just by chatting with the family, they were just wonderful people, just wonderful. And we got to discuss with them about, what their son was doing and what Kane was doing out there. And he wound up going 5th round. He really honestly had the best linebacker workout of the day last year. When we went and saw, and I really enjoyed watching that day 1 situation with Kane Medrano, and to learn that he was originally recruited as a wide receiver to UCLA, and then to see his footwork and to see his hands and see how, it was like, wow, it's no wonder he was recruited as a receiver, because this kid doesn't come off as a linebacker to me. He comes off as a safety. And I said that on the show, and we got to see what he was really made of. It really creates a whole different outlook for us on some of these young guys that we see at the combine there. Meeting Rob and getting to see Justin out there on the field and really getting to have discussions with his family it was such a cool experience. And they're wonderful people. Rob Jolie he's been one of the most enjoyable people we've met at the combine. Just a great guy all around. Justin's family was just phenomenal. They're just amazing people. We hope one day to get him on the show. That's a goal right there.
Yep.
But we will try and get him on the show, ladies and gentlemen. But I want to see what Justin Jolie does. But Justin Jolie watch right now is a thing. It's definitely a thing. We're going to be excited when we're watching. We will be going live, by the way, for those of you who don't know. We're not sure. I think we're probably going to go live for day 1 and 2 of the draft. So we're just kind of in discussions about what we're going to do for those first 2 days.
Live reaction stream, kids. We will be watching the draft and reacting to the picks as they happen. So and we'll have commentary, obviously, and we'll have special guests on from our little circle of friends. So, my partner in crime that kept the package, Andrew Steele, he'll be there. Our good friend Ray Collins will be there. So, more to come when the day gets closer. But trust me, you're going to want to tune in for that.
Yeah, we're going to be having a good time, having some beers and eating some delicious pizza on day 1. I'm very excited for that's a pizza, by the way. But having some cold beers and hanging out with you guys. We're going to be it's draft season, baby. That's just what we do for the draft. And also, let's jump into another free agent signing real quick. Our last free agent signing, Cowboys. They go out and sign ex-Vikings defensive lineman Jonathan Bullard to a 1-year deal, maximum of $2.5 million with incentives. This is a cheap deal for a defensive lineman that did really well for the Vikings at certain points throughout the last several seasons. Man, for 2.5, I mean, this is next to nothing. I'm a little flabbergasted that the Vikings didn't retain his services at that price point. Bullard's a good player. He fits Brian Flores' scheme. Now he's going to go to the Cowboys. Great signing all around for 2.5.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. And his numbers speak for themselves. I mean, just in 2024, his last year with the Vikings, he had 41 tackles. He had and he recorded a sack, and then he spent some time in New Orleans, but now that the Cowboys have a hold of this guy, the Cowboys need help on defense anyway. I mean, last year, the Cowboys were probably one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to defense, and the record showed it,
they were dead last.
Dead last in the division. So, and our friends at Tankathon have Dallas picking 12th in the NFL draft. That's probably one of the highest picks that they've had, the highest up that they've had, or lowest, depending on depending on how full the glass is, in your opinion. One of the earliest draft picks for sure in recent memory. So
I mean, this is probably the earliest draft pick they've had since CeeDee Lamb, which I think says something when they picked up CeeDee Lamb in the teens. It's a very early draft pick for them. I was a little surprised, but the Cowboys defense, I mean, like I said, dead last year. They were the worst pass rushing team in football last year. They need edge rushers. And I mean, a lot of it comes with the fact that they traded Micah Parsons away in the offseason and then didn't do anything to replace him. Donovan Ezeraku was decent for him, but they really need a high-end edge rusher. Bullard is just one of those guys. He's kind of a chess piece. You can kind of move him up and down the line. And he can play basically anywhere on the defensive line. I think he's going to be a great fit for what they do down there in Dallas. He'd be more of a rotational piece, but as a rotational piece, very effective in the times that he's placed into the football games. I like this move a lot. And especially, like I said, for the price point, with Dallas kind of reeling when it comes to the salary cap and them trying to save, makes a lot of sense. This is a really sensible move by Jerry Jones. Credit to him. I mean, I don't like Jerry a whole lot, but this is actually a really smart play from an analytics standpoint. Now, one thing about this league now is there's a lot of uncertainties, and one of the uncertainties is the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation. President Art Rooney says he expects quarterback Aaron Rodgers to make a decision about his return to the team to come before the NFL draft. So right now, the Steelers says they've said they've had very positive conversations with Rodgers. Former Ohio State quarterback, 2025 6th round pick Will Howard is reportedly being considered for the starting job, which honestly wouldn't surprise me, and honestly I wouldn't be that mad at. Believe it or not, I mean, even though he had a really bad combine going into that last draft, we were kind of laughing to ourselves. It was one of those things where they were really hyping up Will Howard about his combine, and his combine stunk. To be honest with you, his combine stunk. And they were interviewing him and we said, why are you interviewing that guy? And a lot of it just came with the fact that Will Howard won a national championship. And there was a reason he only went 5th round. Okay. I want to see what Will Howard does in that Pittsburgh Steelers starting role. That's kind of, I want to see what he does. I think Will Howard could be really, really good in that role. I think he could groom him. Do you like this? Do you like the idea of Aaron Rodgers coming back to Mike McCarthy, or do you like the idea of the Steelers, going in a different direction, taking Will Howard, putting him in, and just fingers crossed?
Will Howard did sit behind one of the greatest quarterbacks, of all time. One of. I mean, we already know who the GOAT is, but right. Aaron Rodgers, is up there. As much as we don't, as much as we can't stand him, he is one of the best quarterbacks that the league has produced. And so to have Will Howard learn from him, gives him a little bit of a bump, in my opinion. But at the same time, I would not be surprised to see Aaron Rodgers say, "Okay, let's do this one more time. One more time." Do it for the Gipper, do it for Tomlin, do it for Pittsburgh. So, I mean, but so it's up in the air. Obviously, we'll know before the NFL draft. At least that's what President Art Rooney's saying. And if we do find that out, obviously, we'll do the breaking news and all that. On top of everybody else, of course. But so I could see it obviously going either way. But for my money, I think Will Howard does have what it takes if they decide to go that way. If they decide to go with Will Howard, he's spent enough time on the bench learning behind Aaron Rodgers. I mean, again, are you going to invest in an offensive line? Are you going to protect the man? Are you going to allow him to develop his skills? Or is it just going to be crash and burn? We don't know. But I would say, for my money, they'll start Will Howard.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they start Will Howard, I mean, they've already got him they got him 2 weapons there. They got DK Metcalf, and they just acquired Michael Pittman in a trade, recently. So, I mean, they do have some weapons for him there. I actually like the idea of starting Will Howard and training wheels off. Let's go. Let's see what the guy's got. I like that idea better. Save yourself some cap space. Aaron Rodgers is reportedly asking, a lot of people are saying $30 million. And I get it to an extent because he did play well last year. But I mean,
that's a lot.
Do I really want to pay him?
Yeah, that's a lot for 1 year. That's a lot for your last year in the NFL. Yeah, I mean, he's worth it, but at the same time, it's like,
don't know. Do I want to give him 30? I don't know. Maybe I'm moving into the rookie scale contract situation, hoping that the Will Howard thing pans out. Next up, let's talk about the NFL. Rashee Rice gets investigated by the NFL. The NFL has concluded its investigation. They said that he, and I quote, has not engaged in conduct that violates the personal conduct policy. The NFL also said its investigation into the accusations from Dakota Jones, who is Rice's former girlfriend. That investigation is officially closed. At this time, Rashee Rice is not going to be disciplined by the league, which determined there was, quote unquote, there was insufficient evidence to support a finding that he violated the personal conduct policy. Obviously, you know, we heard all about the accusations from Dakota Jones. She posted them on her Twitter page saying that Rashee Rice, you know, beat her and all kinds of stuff. It was just a lot. But the NFL says it's insufficient evidence. Rashee Rice won't be punished by the league, which is good news for the Chiefs. Good news for Rashee Rice. Do you think, I mean, look, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, in spite of the fact that he's not getting punished in this situation, do you, as the Chiefs, do you sit here and go, this guy ain't worth the trouble? Because, I mean, we've already had the car accident situation, right? The big, we were joking calling him Racy Rice, right?
Yep.
Because he was racing down the freeway. But now we've got this whole situation with the Dakota Jones and all kinds of stuff. Do you have you had enough of Rashee Rice, or is he too good of a player? You know, and are you just going to kind of turn a blind eye and say, everything's fine?
Well, first of all, in my humble opinion, no player is good enough to escape scrutiny when stuff like this pops up. Now, the fact that no evidence was found during the investigation can lend a hand to, all right. They said some stuff. We couldn't find any evidence of it, so he's good there. But still, bro, chill out. You know, I can definitely see that happening. I don't know if they're going to bench him for week 1. I can't see that I can't say that they would, because if you take a look at the schedule, obviously, I don't think they've released the schedule for this year yet.
No, they haven't. But, you know, here's the thing. Would you bench him for week 1? No. I don't think the Chiefs aren't going to bench him for week 1. Obviously, they're like, hey, the investigation's concluded. We're good here. But if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and with all the off the field bullshit, are you just kind of done with it? Are you just kind of like, hey, you know what? This guy is too much trouble. Get his ass out of here. You know, here's a trade. Here's our trade value for him if you want him, and see if there's any buyers. Do you do that, and do you go into this year's draft and draft one of these big time receivers, because this is a deep receiver class, or do you go, all right, you know what, Rashee Rice is still a great player. The investigation didn't turn up anything. Yeah, it's a little extra bullshit that came from him, but you know, the investigation didn't turn up anything. Nothing's going on. He's not getting suspended. Let's just move on and keep him around in Kansas City. I mean, that's going to be the question of the day. And to me, you know, I think the Chiefs will keep him around. But if I were the Chiefs in this situation, I'd be like, let's see what kind of trade value we can get for him. Because if you can get some trade value here and you can pick up 2 really good receivers in this year's draft, which is a full possibility, right? It's a real possibility in this year's draft class. We saw some really great receivers. Yeah, I might take that option.
Yep. I mean, I can see it. I can see the Chiefs because, again, they're another one of these organizations that don't tolerate a whole lot of bullshit. You know, it's definitely not kumbaya at the bonfire. I mean, it's like, okay, we have a reputation to uphold, and you're tarnishing it. So, you know, they're going to probably put offers out there, put them on the block, and see what they can get for them. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see an offer float across the table and have the GM and Andy Reid coach go, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Why don't we just pull the trigger on it? That I can see that happening.
Yeah, I could too. And then another team right now that's dealing with some draft compensation issues, the Bears. They appealed to the league to receive a compensatory draft pick after assistant general manager Ian Cunningham was hired as the Falcons general manager. The league denied it, and the matter has been closed, according to the league. Cunningham is the Atlanta GM, and this is an interesting little precedent that the NFL has set here, because so they lose their assistant GM. Any other team in the league, and I'm actually, believe it or not, even though I'm a Vikings fan, I'm actually on the Bears side on this situation. Any other team loses their assistant general manager, and that assistant general manager becomes a GM or whatever the case may be, that team winds up getting draft compensation. We've seen that. I mean, year after year after year after year. Oh, our assistant GM left, or our player personnel guy left. Oh, we're going to get draft compensation. And they get it. Well, the Bears didn't get draft compensation, and the league's reasoning is that even though Cunningham is the Atlanta GM, team president Matt Ryan is being viewed as the team's primary football executive, thereby negating the Bears receiving compensation that they would have normally gotten. I feel like this is the Bears getting bent over on this one. This isn't entirely fair. They still lost their assistant general manager. He's still the general manager for the Falcons. So because the league feels, oh, well, but Matt Ryan's running things, like they don't deserve the compensation. No, absolutely not. The Bears should get the draft compensation. It's not a fair move.
If you really want to tut the situation, get him like a lower pick, but at the same time, it's like, I agree. They deserve some compensation because this is an executive in their office has a hand in choosing players and making trades.
Yeah.
It's an assistant GM in one organization becoming a general manager in another. So what if Matt Ryan's the guy calling the shots? You still lost an executive. So
yeah, that's just how it goes. Like you lose the executive,
you get your draft.
You get your compensation. I don't get it. I don't get this whole situation. And it's not like the Bears, it's not like they were a bad team. It's not they were a good team. So obviously he was doing something right as the assistant general manager. I mean, the Bears did really well last year. So it's like, the hell is going on here? It doesn't make sense. And to me, this is the league nitpicking, a lot of bullshit, a lot of nonsense. To me, they should have given the draft compensation to the Chicago Bears. It just doesn't make sense. And then the last thing on our news list, which is a very controversial topic. Obviously, we don't like to be political in the football field here, so we'll put that out there as our disclaimer. But it's worth noting. So the Florida Attorney General, James Uthmeyer, I think his name is how it's pronounced.
Yep.
He has challenged the NFL's Rooney Rule, demanding that the league suspend the policy which requires interviewing minority or female candidates for top coaching and executive positions. Uthmeyer, he labeled it as quote unquote illegal, race-based discrimination, violating Florida law, threatening legal action if it's not dropped. The league has since pushed back. The rule was introduced in 2003. It requires teams to interview at least 2 diverse candidates for head coach, general manager, and coordinator positions. Uthmeyer argues that DEI is discriminatory and illegal, and that the hiring should be based strictly on merit rather than race-based considerations. Roger Goodell, he's defended the rule. He said there's no current plans to scrap it. The league is reviewing the challenge. This follows a 2024 complaint filed by America First Legal and ongoing criticism from proponents who argue the rule has not adequately increased the number of black head coaches in the NFL. Look, this whole Rooney Rule situation, I don't think that a lot of teams, if I'm being honest, I don't feel like a lot of teams has taken the Rooney Rule as seriously as they probably should. A lot of teams have been, viewing the Rooney Rule in a way where, we'll just bring in, a guy that isn't qualified for a head coaching position. And it's like, I get flabbergasted by some of the guys that are getting interviews like, oh, hey, it's almost like them going, oh, hey, we're going to interview this high school head coach for our head coaching position just to satisfy the Rooney Rule. When you got a guy like Eric Bieniemy out there who should have a job, he should be a head coach. The fact that Eric Bieniemy isn't a head coach is flabbergasting to me. So I feel like some teams aren't taking the Rooney Rule as seriously as they should. And they're finding ways to sort of circumvent the rule. I think there needs to be definite tweaks to the Rooney Rule. I don't know that the Rooney Rule needs to be gone, but there needs to be tweaks done to the Rooney Rule in order to make it more effective and create the situation where teams do take the Rooney Rule more seriously and that they are interviewing legitimate minority candidates out there. and instead of just trying to circumvent the rule itself. So I think, like I said, you want to interview an Eric Bieniemy. I mean, there's no reason why I was panicked that Brian Flores was going to be a head coach this year because I didn't want the Vikings to lose him as a defensive coordinator. I mean, like guys like that should be considered for these top tier positions in general. So, I mean, it flabbergasts me when you see certain teams that are looking at candidates that really probably shouldn't be looked at like a high school coach or something. But then you got a guy like Eric Bieniemy out there. You should be, you got to take the rules seriously. Yep. And that's something that the NFL has to really kind of consider. Am I right?
Yes. And I, for one, am of the opinion that James Uthmeyer's language is a little heavy-handed.
Yes.
I don't think it's illegal. I mean, come on, bro. And to your point, it should be taken more seriously. Yes, there are top quality, female and minority candidates out there that have the merit, that have the skills, that have the things that you need, in a leader. Yeah. If you're just gonna do like part, we know we want this guy, but we have to do this. So, the question also is, what is the objective of the Rooney Rule? I mean, obviously you mentioned that, it's not adequately increased the number of black head coaches in the league, but it's like, I feel like the objective of the Rooney Rule, my opinion is it should outline that you don't just pick the guys. Okay, well, how do I mention this? Like, you want to give everybody a chance, but you also want to be sure that when you're giving someone a chance that they have the skills that you're looking for. If you see a name pop up on the news box and even us sitting here on the couch go, who the heck is that guy? Yeah, I can't see him being an NFL head coach. If the two of us are sitting on our couch thinking that is not a good sign that you're taking the Rooney Rule seriously. That's what we mean when we say that.
Yeah, and that's my thing. Like there's teams that are out there just undermining this rule, and they shouldn't be. I don't, and I agree with you. I think Uthmeyer's stuff is a little heavy-handed. I mean, illegal. I mean, come on, man. Like let's be real. I think we're going a bit far in that situation, but teams need to not undermine the Rooney Rule. If they're actually going to in the league, it's going to be also on the league to enforce the fact that teams shouldn't be undermining the Rooney Rule. They should be taking it seriously, and we see it all the time. We see guys that are being interviewed, and you're like, eh, and like, why is he getting interviewed? And then like you see a guy getting interviewed that has no business getting interviewed, and then you see a guy like Brian Flores sitting there like, why didn't you go talk to Brian Flores? Why didn't you? You're like, what the fuck? What is this? The Rooney Rule.
Here's a kind of an idea. I don't know how good it is, but couldn't they have a list of candidates that are vetted? Like, hey, the NFL has vetted these candidates, and they have the statistics, the qualities you're looking for. They have the skill set you're looking for, so that here's a list of candidates that you can interview to satisfy the Rooney Rule, and the way that you can make it serious. But then on the flip side, if you start bringing in lists, sooner or later somebody's going to have a gripe. So
yes,
it is a razor thin wire you have to walk to try to. It's a difficult situation to figure out, but work can be done to make it better.
Yeah, even if it's having a certain degree of experience, at a college level at least, or whatever the case may be, that might be something that the league has to look into. But the Rooney Rule is, as an initial starting point, it's really, really good, but you got to be able to fix certain loopholes that teams are executing in order to undermine the whole thing. So, but that is the news around the league right now. And Alex, we got one more thing to jump into. The NFL draft is around the corner in a couple of weeks, and we are jumping into our top linebackers for this upcoming draft class. Very excited about that. We've got a very strong linebacker class. This linebacker class is incredible. We were talking about how quietly, like not a lot of people are looking at this linebacker class as a top tier, for what it is, as a top tier class, because of the fact that the linebacker position in this day and age really isn't considered, a premium position, as they call it. But if you look at this year's class, man, it should be viewed as one of the best linebacker classes we've had in a long, long time. And especially for what we saw in the combine here. Let's jump into these top linebackers here. I've got my top 5 situated. I know you've got some sleepers. Let's talk about Bryce Betcher out of Oregon at number 5. We loved this guy. Man, this guy's a true leader, man. He's a Mike linebacker all day. He carries that green dot with pride. He identifies offensive schemes, pre-snap, calls things out, gets his guys in alignment. He's a strong tackler. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty in the interior of the line. Solid in coverage. He's got good hands. He eliminates throwing lanes and causes turnovers. He's a good run defender. He handles gap assignments and tracks down opposing running backs with ease. He's got talent as a special teams player, which I love. So we've got a multifaceted player, a little undersized for the position. Okay. He's got the short arms, not a tremendous pass rusher. It's not his game. Okay. He gets pushed around by all the bigger offensive linemen. So he's going to have to, kind of do the delayed blitz thing a little bit. We've seen that out of certain players. He's going to fit well as a middle linebacker at the next level, but he won't do much damage as an outside pass rusher. He's going to have to be in a 4-3 system where he's got those big guys doing the dirty work, and then he can kind of come in on a delayed blitz, get in those gaps and create a ruckus and stuff the run. That's going to kind of be what he's going to be valued as. But we loved Bryce Betcher at both the Senior Bowl and at the Combine. He moved really well at the Senior Bowl. Man, the guy was everywhere. He played basically every defensive snap for his team. We were going just bananas over Bryce Betcher. Alex, where are you on this guy out of Oregon? I love him.
Yeah, he's tremendous. He was really good at the Combine. When we saw him on day one, he was every bit the leader we needed him to be. He didn't necessarily run the 40 times, but all the drills that he did, were solid. We look for control and you look for speed. That's what you want to have, that nice fine balance. And as far as statistics go, I mean, when it comes to pressures, he only had 12 pressure opportunities in 2025, but he made the most of them. He had 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 6 hurries. His game is tackling, obviously. He had 49 defensive stops, 94 total tackles. He missed 14, so it's a little high. But then also he didn't give up a whole lot of yards in targets. I mean, he did give up 34 receptions for 204 yards, but he did get an interception in 3 pass breakups. So the man is a menace, on the defensive side of the ball. And to your point, you want a guy that you can communicate. And from what I'm to understand, I thought he was a former quarterback. Was he not? I mean, I know that I've got a couple of people who used to be a quarterback, that I've listed as one of my guys for sure. But he definitely has, the leadership capabilities you want out of your middle linebacker.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a down year. I mean, I'm not going to say it was like a super down year for him. But if you look at, his year from 2024 to 2025, it was, 2025 or 2024 was his best year as a linebacker, 90.4 overall PFF grade. He had a 90.2 coverage grade, 83 run defense grade. I mean, he was just on fire for Oregon. And he won the Bullsworth Trophy in 2024. So the Burlsworth Trophy rather. So, it definitely says a lot. But 2025 still a really rock solid year for him. 73.3 PFF grade, 73.4 in coverage. He's a great player. I think that this guy, coming out of this year's draft, he's going to be excellent. He's going to wind up going to a team that needs a nice middle linebacker in a 4-3. He's going to fit. He's going to fit that role really nicely. I like him a lot. I think he's got great vision. I think he's got great pursuit. I don't think he's unafraid. I mean, he's undersized but unafraid. I think that's the best way to put it. So get ready for Bryce Betcher. But number 4 is a guy
Create opportunity for yourself and others.
We were hyped about, and that I think everybody was hyped about on linebacker day. And he's in. I put on my notes that he is an athletic marvel.
Yes.
Who put on an absolute show at the NFL Combine. That's Sonny Styles out of Ohio State.
Yes, sir.
He's my number 4. He's able to cover tight ends and running backs with ease on passing downs. He had time as a safety before converting to a linebacker, and it shows. The way he moves, he reads quarterbacks' eyes. Mm-hmm. He's rangy. He's effective in the open field as a tackler. He's very efficient bringing down the ball carrier. He's got excellent play recognition. He reacts quickly to play action screens by shutting him down behind the line and disrupting throws with pressure. Those bootleg throws, he's right in guys' faces. The cons on him: bigger, more powerful offensive linemen will toss him around. He's not a pass rusher by any stretch of the imagination, as much as he is a coverage and run support linebacker. As good as he is in zone, he doesn't really handle man coverage as well as you'd like. He's got just 2 years at the linebacker position because he primarily played safety early in his career. I like Sonny Styles, super athlete. Guy's a freak, but I mean, he's going to wind up being really good at the NFL level with, I think, the right coaching. And it's really nice to see a guy that you can see he can play that hybrid role between a safety and linebacker. I really like that a lot about Sonny Styles. I think he's going to be excellent at the pro level. You might see a team, whoever takes him, you actually might see a team kick him back to safety. He's really good in run support. Reminds me a lot of Harrison Smith in a lot of ways. Really excited about Sonny Styles. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm watching his drills at the Combine right now. I'm on NFL.com/Combine tracker. I'm watching him right now with his footwork, and I'm still amazed. I'm very impressed. And the funny thing about that, there was an AFC regional scout, and I quote, "It's hard to look at him and think that he was ever a safety with that frame. And he's always been wired like a linebacker." So you mentioned that, they might kick him back out to safety, but I'm like, maybe not, because again, it's just like you mentioned, it's kind of like how Kay Madrano was training at the Combine as a linebacker, but they definitely, they figured that he would be kicked to safety. Now this is a different kind of athlete, like you said, an athletic freak.
The interesting thing about the frame situation is there's another linebacker another safety rather out there that a lot of people said the same thing about, a really bigger safety, and that was Kyle Hamilton. Mm-hmm. And we see what he's become, so there's questions, Kyle Hamilton is sort of built like a linebacker in a lot of ways. So I want to see, if Sonny Styles is going to wind up, being kicked to safety again, because he does have that experience at safety, but him being wired as a linebacker, I mean, maybe absolutely right. He may be, staying put. He's not really a pass rushing marvel or anything like that, which is why I wouldn't mind seeing him actually kick to safety. Want to see him in coverage and deep coverage a little bit more. And really, as a safety, you're going to be playing a lot more zone than you are man, which I think would really, kind of help him out and do him some favors in a lot of ways. Especially if he was a run support safety. I think that would be great. But, he's obviously, right now coming into the draft as a linebacker, as one of the top linebackers in this class. A lot of people have him listed as 1 or 2 on their list. I have him listed as 4 because these 3 guys ahead of him are out of this world. Let's talk about number 3, Kyle Lewis out of Pitt. We loved him at the Combine. Pros on him. Coverage linebacker. He excels in both man and zone coverage. He's got the anticipation to jump routes like Andrew Van Ginkel, those little short routes. He's a real chess piece sort of player. He can play anywhere in the defense. He's got excellent timing on these delayed interior blitzes, good pursuit of the ball carrier. He has outstanding speed. The cons on him, he doesn't have the size or the power to battle against those larger linemen. He's a little bit smaller, gets beat up a bit on play action zone reads and RPOs. He bites on the run, and it leaves receivers wide open. He's a decent tackler, but he needs to be more aggressive as a tackler. There's these situations where you watch him tackle, and it's almost like it turns into like a kind of dragging the guy down thing type of situation instead of actually driving through the guy type of situation. He's going to another one that's going to fit really well in a 4-3 scheme where those more sizable guys are doing the dirty work and they free him up to use that speed and that sideline to sideline ability to his advantage. I really like Kyle Lewis. We were just blown away by him at the combine. He was another one where we were like, wow, look at this guy. Mm-hmm. He's special. Where are you at on Kyle Lewis?
I'm really high on him. Obviously, if we go through the combine statistics, he ran a 4.53 40 with a 1.58 10-yard split, his first one was a 4.57. So, 0.04 seconds may not sound like a lot, but like if you could shave your time off by that much, that means you're trucking it. Broad jump. He's a 10'9" broad jump. He did the 3-cone drill in 6.97 seconds, so sub 7, and a 20-yard shuttle in 4.26. So the guy's quicker than a heck up, And you're right. Definitely an NFC regional scout, mentioned that he's not very big. Durability against the run was that person's biggest concern, but he'll be a great fit for teams with a stout front who like to sit in nickel the entire game. So, so I kind of find that interesting, and obviously, he also has 3 touchdowns on his 2 picks for 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, he gave up 3 touchdowns, but he does have 2 interceptions and 3 batted passes. Definitely, the grades in PFF, they're in the 70s, mid to low 70s. Don't let that fool you. That doesn't tell all of the story. That's why it's important that we go to the combine and watch the performance, because the eye test can really tell you a lot about what someone is capable of and what they can do, and what they might be capable of doing.
Yeah, and if you look at the 2024 grades, and they tell a different story, right? 83.1 overall grade, 84.2 run defense, 82.5 coverage grade. Previous years for Kyle Lewis, obviously more fruitful than this last one, but even this last year was a really great year for him, with some really solid grades to go with his what he did out on the field. So number 2, this one is look. We have been talking all offseason about how Texas Tech guys have been showing up on our top draft boards. Here's another one, David Bailey out of Texas Tech. Just pass rushing monster, coming off the line. He's got legitimate speed. He's got an explosive first step. He catches opposing offensive tackles off guard almost immediately on every single snap. He's got good pass rushing techniques. They're effective and plentiful. When he's going after the ball carriers and QBs, he's like a heat-seeking missile to the ball. He just creates fumbles and turnovers. He's able to dip into coverage effectively, especially in zone, and his speed allows him to handle the quicker tight ends, especially in that zone coverage. High motor guy. He's relentless in pursuit of the ball carrier. I love it. Cons on him, undersized for the position. He's only 238 pounds, which causes him to get pushed around a little bit by larger offensive linemen. You see that's something of a theme with this class. He gets suckered on inside zone read looks. He overcommits to the running back, and he finds himself leaving these massive lanes outside. He abandons the edge. He needs to be better in run defense and maintaining gap integrity is the biggest thing for him. But man, David Bailey, super athlete, super fast, little undersized for the position, but I'm crazy about David Bailey. I think he's going to be great at the NFL level. Where are you at on David Bailey?
I'm huge on him. Pro Football Focus for some reason has him listed as an edge defender, but if he has this, but if he has the capabilities if he's being listed as a linebacker, obviously I'm in full lockstep with you. I think he has exactly what he needs for that.
He's a linebacker / edge is what it is. It's kind of tough when you're assessing these defensive ends and they've kind of taken the defensive end and outside linebacker position and started calling them edge because these guys are generally pass rushers and whatever the case may be. And so he would probably classify as an outside linebacker / edge is where he's at. I think he fits, in his situation, it's interesting because he's such a good speed rusher. I'm not sure if I would stick him in a 4-3 or a 3-4 because, obviously he's an edge rusher. If you stick him in a 3-4, you get that speedy guy off the edge. Might be a good fit for a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, if I'm being honest. I could definitely see him being a fit there. Maybe in Baltimore could be another spot. I really like David Bailey out of Texas Tech. I like a lot of these Texas Tech defenders, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yes.
A lot of these guys have been phenomenal this year. We've talked about like the Lee Hunters of the world and so on and so forth. And a lot of the Texas Tech players at the Combine really caught our eye and caught our attention. And then last but not least, number one, this should go as no surprise, Arvell Reese. I mean, out of Ohio State, this guy is a positional nightmare for opposing offenses. He's able to line up as an edge rusher, as an interior blitzing linebacker, or as a traditional off-the-ball linebacker. Expert run defender. He's nasty, both up the middle and in pursuit. He's an excellent tackler. He wraps his man up. He finishes strong. He only had 4 missed tackles on 70 stops in 2025. He's got the pure power, speed, and athleticism to just power through opposing defensive linemen and catch them sleeping with a wicked first step off the line. Cons on him, he gets suckered in by play action on passing downs. It just takes him out of coverage. He only had 1 season as a full-time starter. The coverage skills aren't really there. He's going to have to improve his hand technique and add to his pass rushing arsenal, but that's all stuff that's coachable for him. And that's one thing I'm really big on Arvell Reese here. I think he's going to be an excellent player at the NFL level. Where are you at on him?
I'm right with you. I mean, he was definitely one of the most prolific young men, just not just at the Combine, but, throughout this entire draft process. The big trend is he's going to go to the Jets because the Jets are picking number 2. And that's where Pro Football Focus is telling us, for the most part, he may be going. But, time will tell. There's a whole, it's a little early to really just pin it down on the Jets. They could go in a completely different direction. He could, but I don't see him making anywhere outside of the top 7. By the time that, New Orleans is up to bat or Kansas City, he'll be gone. Yeah,
he's been projected notoriously as a top 3, top 4 pick in this year's draft. I mean, really, even before the draft process started, everybody's like, "Oh, top 3, top 4, easy." I couldn't see him going anywhere else but the Jets, if I'm being honest with you. But I mean, if he falls and he goes past the Jets, man. Teams would be dumb not to nab this guy up at that point. I mean, you have a really golden opportunity to get a stud player. I could definitely see Arvell Reese going to the Jets. But if the Jets decided, let's say hypothetically, they decide to go quarterback, or are they going to wait? Are they going to see if Ty Simpson falls to them in the 20s, which is a real possibility? But Arvell Reese, I mean, he could transform. We just got done talking about how McDonald is over there, and he's kind of sort of the other guy. I mean, imagine putting Arvell Reese over there. And now we're having a different conversation. About what they're doing with that Jets defense. Aaron Glenn, the former defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. I mean, he loves that blitzing, man. He likes to blitz about as much as Brian Flores does. That could be a really great spot for Arvell Reese to end up, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a whole lot of sense.
It makes almost too much sense.
Right.
Alex, you got sleepers for me, though. Let me get some of these sleepers.
But I guess before I do we want to talk about Boots' pick here for the bootleg B team?
Well, we will let Boots jump onto his. He's got 2 weeks worth of bootleg B teamers that he's gonna wind up talking about. So I'm gonna let him go ahead and
let's have him do it. So, I totally agree with that line of inquiry. Words are hard, but as far as my guys go, here we go. So you were talking all about the Texas Tech guys, and
yes.
we would be remiss. I would be remiss if I did not mention one of my big time guys, and that would be I'm getting my notes lined up. Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech.
Yes,
the senior. I came for the mustache. I stayed for the statistics. So if we take just a good look at this young man, he had a 93. Okay, I humbly apologize.
93.3. It's crazy. 93.3.
Yup, overall PFF grade. I mean that's insane. I don't think I've seen anything that big. In 2025, he had 285 run defense snaps, and he had 447 coverage snaps. So he was more of a coverage guy, at Texas Tech. It had a 93 overall grade, 94.8 run defense grade. And his pass rush grade isn't that bad either, 61.4, but it had a 92.3 coverage grade. So now he did give up 55 receptions out of 67 targets for 550 yards, but that number would have gone below 500 if you took out just one catch, a 56-yard catch given up against Kansas State. So we're talking about a whole different conversation. One play, bumped it over 500, but otherwise it was under it. And he gave up 2 touchdowns, but he had 4 interceptions, 3 pass breakups, 7. This is where it gets crazy. 7 forced fumbles, which led the FBS in 2025, and 5 of those he recovered. So he is a turnover machine. That's the big thing about this kid.
It was trying to get this ball production. I mean, 13 career forced fumbles.
Yep.
6 interceptions, 5 fumble recoveries, all of which came last year. But here's another thing. You want to talk about a decorated linebacker. Let's talk decorated. 2025 Dick Butkus Award winner, 2025 Bronco Nagurski Award winner, 2025 Lombardi Award, 2025 Chuck Bednarik Award. I mean, this guy, he's just walking around with all the slammies like he's Owen Hart. Yeah. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And he's a great run defender. The sideline to sideline skill is there. I love what this guy, the combine performance, was top of the line. You want to talk about one of the best combine performances we saw all weekend long. Jacob Rodriguez all day. He's a captain on his team. He's got the leadership qualities. I really like Jacob Rodriguez. And he was a guy that I know you were crazy about. And I was like, I was going to stick him on my list. And then I'm just like, nah, I'm leaving that to Alex because that's his guy. I knew he was your guy. I'm going to leave him for you.
Listen, it all started last year with the guy,
Robbie Outs.
Robbie Outs. Yeah, thank you so much for saving me there. Robbie Outs.
Yeah.
I came for the mustache, but then as a tight end, I'm like, holy smokes, these guys can really move. And then he went to fullback, which made a ton of sense because he was built like a brick shithouse. And as far as Jacob Rodriguez goes, so the pros on him, he's got a ton of lateral range. A lot of these guys that I picked out have a ton of, you can get to sideline in a hurry. This guy can get to the perimeter in a hurry, and he's rarely caught flat-footed in lateral pursuit. So, he also, again, quarterback background is a major assist with coverage instincts. So he knows how a quarterback reads defenses so that he can adjust his technique to kind of, fool the quarterback, with those mixed blitz packages. And he also has the skills of a safety and coverage. So, he has and any defense would kill to have that caliber of defensive play in the middle of the field with all those turnovers. I mean, that is what teams and fans hope for in a defense is how can you take the ball away from the other team? This guy can.
Yeah.
Cons on him. Obviously, he has a less than ideal frame, and we mentioned that for all of these guys, really. And of course, he can get knocked around by sizable linemen. Coverage busts were costly in 2025, admittedly, and he gave up 80% of his passes that were thrown his way, including that 56-yarder against K-State. And he bites hard on misdirection and play action, and his sense of urgency works against him in those instances. So it's kind of like the sword of Damocles. It kind of cuts both ways. Likely landing spots for Jacob Rodriguez has him at Chicago at 24%, Pittsburgh at 8%, and Buffalo at 7%. I can totally see him going to Chicago. I think the Bears would have a pretty, Pro Football Focus has them going like anywhere like in the upper to mid 40s. And that sounds about right. Or circa second round guy. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to be. If I was a betting man, I'd say he's going to be mid second. He increased his draft stock in a big way at the combine. In this whole process, this offseason and the whole draft process, he's really increased his draft capital. I really think that he's going to end up as a mid to early second round guy. A lot of people had him projected as possibly a third rounder. No, I think he's a mid to second round, early second round guy, easy. Early day 2, I could see him going in the top 10 picks on day 2, and I wouldn't even be upset about it at that point.
No, sir. So you want to talk about another guy that was tremendous. Let's take a look at our next guy, Caleb Elam's-Orr, TCU.
We loved him. Senior Bowl was great for him. I really enjoyed what he did. I mean, this, again, another guy where the whole draft process this offseason has been really, really good for Caleb Elam's-Orr. Saw him at the Senior Bowl, loved him. Saw him in the Combine, loved him. He was doing a lot of great stuff. You want to talk about a good player, sideline to sideline, underrated, by the way. He was living in the backfield at certain points this season. I like this kid a lot, and I think he's a great pick for you.
Yep, absolutely. He had an 84.4 overall PFF grade last year, 89.1 run defense grade, 66.7 pass rush grade, and a 75.4 coverage grade. In 2025, he had 393 run defense snaps. And in those snaps, he had 89 tackles, 41 assists. He missed 10 tackles, but he got 53 defensive stops overall. In 376 coverage snaps, he got pegged for 25 catches out of 35 attempts. He gave up 237 yards, including 188 yards after catch, and a touchdown. It was against Houston. And I watched that tape back, and obviously the guy that got the touchdown on him, had an admittedly really nice move, but he did have two pass breakups, in those coverage snaps. And then, one of the things that we talked about this offline, and one of the things that you wanted to highlight with the linebackers is their ability to disguise blitzes. And when they do blitz, do they get home and do they get to the quarterback? Well, he had 128 pass rush snaps last year, and he sacked the quarterback 4 times, and he got 4 quarterback hits, 17 quarterback hurries, and 25 pressure opportunities. So this guy's the real deal. And just like you mentioned, pros, the speed lends to his sideline to sideline range, and he closes on the ball quickly. Flies downhill during the blitz. I mean, you get those snowballs that just roll and pick up speed. He has bad intentions when he flies downhill. Absolute menace in the backfield. Excellent timing and setup, for his blitz packages. And contact balance stands out when filling his run gaps. He has high bend, and he utilizes his leverage against blockers to kind of get past them and get to the quarterback. Of course, cons on him. He bites on play action, and he has subpar instincts and loses track of the play development, which that's going to need to be coached. Absolutely. A little undersized for the position, but in his defense, he has a great anchor. So he's really able to plant his feet and hold his own against those big nasty offensive tackles. And he only this is a bit of a red flag though. He in over 1,900 career defensive snaps, even with his primary responsibilities being in zone coverage, he only recorded 1 interception. I mean,
it's problematic, but I frankly I don't really think that's his game. And Elarm's or a lot of people want to panic about things like that. We've seen a lot of I've seen that on several scouting reports. But my big thing about it is like, what is actually his game? And you see that he is an effective blitzer. You see that he is effective in run stopping. You see when he comes downhill and he hits a guy, he has, I mean, like you said, bad intentions. This is a guy that's going to come downhill and he's going to knock your block off every time he does. Good in the open field. He's not just looking to tackle you and bring you down. He's looking to drive through you. And that's kind of where we're at. I'm a big fan of Caleb Elarm-Zora. I like his game. This guy's going to be awesome at the NFL level. A lot of people had him projected as a late day 3 pick, round 6, round 7. I think after the whole draft process, you're probably talking to him in about round 4. He's just a really good player, and he's a guy that's easily, you can see throughout his college career, watching the college tape on him, and I watched a lot of the tape on him. He's developing. And that's one thing that you're consistently seeing is development from him. He's getting better and better every single game. It really stood out to me that you could see that there was vast improvement, down over down, quarter over quarter, game after game. He's just getting better and better and better. So, and he hasn't. We're seeing a great player right now, and he hasn't even hit his peak yet. Right. I think he's really going to be really great at the NFL level.
Yep. And speaking of the NFL, the likely landing spots for him is Pittsburgh, 18%. He'd be great with the Steelers. Chicago, 14%, and the New England Patriots at 8%. And you're right. Like the late 150s to the mid 160s. That's. Like you said, late in the draft, but that's where you find those diamonds in the rough. And
for sure.
And then the last guy, I had a little bit of trouble picking this last guy, but I eventually went with Anthony Hill Jr. Out of Texas, who in fact is a junior in college.
Yeah.
So 71.6 overall PFF grade, 79.7 run defense grade, 60.9 pass rush grade, and a 63.6 coverage grade. So in 2025, he had 227 run defense snaps and 250 coverage snaps. He had 47 total tackles, 16 assists, and he only missed 3 tackles, 30 defensive stops, and a forced fumble. He gave up 20 catches out of 28 attempts for 207 yards, gave up 121 yards after the catch, but he does have 2 picks and a pass breakup to his credit. And at the combine, he was blazing fast in the 40-yard. He ran a 4.51 40, a 1.58 10-yard split, 37-inch vertical jump, 10-foot 5-inch, so almost 10.5 foot broad jump. He had 21 bench presses as well. I mean, I think the record wasn't it 28? Didn't one of the guys like lift like 28 times? Yeah,
it was. Man, the record was broken.
Yeah, it was shattered
around.
But but still, 21 bench presses, is still nothing to sneeze at. Absolutely.
No.
Pros on him, on Anthony Hill Jr. He has natural pass rush ability. His dip and bend moves are helpful with delayed blitzes. And again, sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to dip it I'm going to dip into coverage. Psych, I'm coming to get you. So, if you can do that, that it'll help you out. Arrives with control and balance when making his tackles, and he has a high radius with his long arms. So that's a plus. And he also, this is a smart move for him, avoids unnecessary blocks to free up opportunities to make plays in space. Sometimes you just got to get off the block. Sometimes the play isn't there, and you gotta move to the ball. But the cons on him, he is overly aggressive with his reads, and it does allow cutback opportunities to develop, especially with running backs that can really, stop on a dime, and it would be a problem against a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, for example.
Yes.
Blitz disguise and trigger timing does need some work, although, as we say, that's coachable. So that's the good news. Play action draws eyes to the backfield too quickly, and unfortunately, he's flat-footed in zone drops. So, that might be a bit of a problem. Likely landing spots, Denver at 26%, New York Jets at 13%, Dallas at 8%. I really like Anthony Hill Jr. What say you?
90th percentile with the tackling grades. He was one of the best tacklers in all of college football. Really, really loved what he does. He's effective. He's got a big tackle radius too, big arms, long arms, which I love about him. That's his bread and butter though, is the tackling and the run defense. I think that's exactly what he's going to be good for. At the NFL level, you're going to wind up having him as a big downhill tackler. He's going to be the guy that sniffs out the screen plays. He's going to be that guy. I mean, that's what he is. You're going to say it. He's not a blitzer. I mean, he was an okay blitzer. I don't think he's anything crazy as a blitzer. To be perfectly honest with you, I think he's more of a run defender than anything. I like him a lot. I think you're probably talking about probably a day 3 guy. I could see him going about 5th round. And there was a lot of folks that were saying, this is a guy that could go really, really low, 6th and 7th round. I saw 5th rounder all day. Maybe that's just me. But I think that suits him about correctly as far as the where he's going to wind up going.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and those are Cannonball Sleepers, brought to you by Steel Twins Gaming. I wish I had something wittier to say. It's not like that damn spray that Boots likes to hawk every once in a while, but that's okay. I'll give you the round of applause for everybody. Oh, thank you, too kind.
Yeah. So, but folks, that's our show. The NFL draft, as we said, we're 3 weeks away. Things are a little slow around here, but that's okay. Business is about to pick up in the next couple of weeks. As we know, the NFL draft around the corner. Can't be more fired up for that. We're going to be getting together. We're going to be live doing reaction episode. While we're up there, we're going to decide whether we're going to do day 1, or we're going to do day 1 and 2, or we're going to figure out what we're going to do. But we're going to wind up going live up there. We're going to do a reaction episode for you guys, and we're going to enjoy ourselves. Jump on here. You can have some beers with us. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be drinking some beer, and we're going to be eating some pizza and eating some barbecue and all kinds of stuff. So you guys can join us. We'll be doing some reactions, though, to the NFL draft up there in Traverse City. Before we get out of here, let's talk about some of our sponsors. First of all, It's Your Time Massage. Amanda's a wonderful massage therapist. She does amazing work over there. If you're looking for she's the best massage therapist in the Metro Detroit area. If you're looking for a Swedish massage, a deep tissue massage, you can get it at iytmassage.com, or you can find her at It's Your Time Massage LLC on Facebook. She has a bunch of different services as far as red light therapy, muscle scraping. You can get yourself a little bit of CBD oil for a little bit extra, foot sugar scrubs. You can get all that stuff. You got to check it out. It's Your Time Massage LLC on Facebook, or you can find her at iytmassage.com. And remember, folks, it's your time. Also, Alex, tell me about Steel Twins Gaming. What do you got going on over there?
Hey, do you like video games? Do you like theater? The Steel Twins Gaming might just be what you're looking for. Whether it's the good old first-person shooter, RPG, or favorite story-based adventures, we think we have something for just about everyone. We got everything you need to satisfy your digital cravings, whatever they may be. And best of all, our channel has something nobody else has: voice acting. Every week, my brother and I will play a game that has a lot of text-based dialogue, and we will act it out with the voices that come up in our heads for the characters you see on screen. Sometimes we do our best to highlight the drama of the situation, and other times we just goof off to have a good time. Either way, we're sure you'll be entertained. We're on every Saturday afternoon on or about 2:30 p.m. Follow us on Twitter at SteeleTwinsAlex to keep up to date on our shenanigans. And don't forget the brother channel, Steele Twins Andy. It is there that you'll get your full fix of Nostalgic Mondays, Nintendo Tuesdays, FPS Wednesdays, Indie Thursdays, Open World Fridays, and Random Saturdays. The Nostalgic Mondays especially are off to the races. We're going over some old Bomberman games, including Bomberman Hero, which is kind of an underrated title in my opinion. For the Nintendo 64, not a whole lot of people might remember that, and it's kind of you kind of find these diamonds in the rough. With the Nostalgic Mondays that we definitely enjoyed them when we first played them, and that's why we're sharing it with you.
Yeah, we're waiting for Bad Dudes still. But
yep.
we'll get there. I know Boots will be pretty happy about Bad Dudes. It's only a matter of time. That's it. And let's talk about books real quick. Let's talk about I Ate Cookies Out of the Trash by a wonderful author named Tammy Pruitt. Listen, this book, it's an inspirational guide based on her real life experiences dealing with body image and eating issues. She shapes this book with her struggles and how to overcome them. It's supported with research-based facts and accompanied by her professional advice as a registered dietitian. She lets others know they're not alone in struggling with self-love and body image and disordered eating. And look, she's not your stereotypical health guru, okay? She doesn't run 7 miles a day and judge people for the kind of unhealthy food they consume, although I will say she just recently ran a marathon. Good for her.
Absolutely.
Instead, she's a friend you never had. She's the kind that encourages you and motivates you to rise above those dilemmas. She takes you down memory lane where life pitted challenges against her and what she did to get through them. She's a registered dietitian, folks. She's got a master's degree in science. She's a scientist.
The power of science, people.
Yes, it matters. This is a fantastic book. It reads like a conversation, not a boring one. You got to check it out. I Ate Cookies Out of the Trash. You can get it on all the .coms, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. And you order it, you get this thing in the mail, you can chill out, and you can read her story, and she'll even tell you why she ate cookies out of the trash. I mean, it's a fantastic book. I've read it. I highly recommend it to anybody. Check it out. I Ate Cookies Out of the Trash. Get it on the .coms. And Alex, we got one more thing to jump into. Let's jump into the artist formerly known as Big Willie Dumbs Gaming, now known as No Shot Bot TTV. Will is doing great stuff over at his channel. Very entertaining, first-person shooter stuff for the most part, but every now and then he does jump into other things as well as like the Hot Ones challenge. Believe it or not, yes, I watched him do that. He went through. I actually sat in as we were eating nasty jelly beans, and there was a little jelly bean game where you can either try a juicy pear, which was my favorite type of jelly bean, or you can eat one that tastes allegedly like a booger. I wouldn't know because I've never eaten my boogers. But, the booger one was not entertaining by any stretch of the imagination. And I wound up accidentally getting the booger one and not the pear one, and it was just awful. So, but yeah, a lot of fun over there at No Shot Bot TTV. Check him out. You can find him on Twitch. You can find him over on Facebook. You can find him on the TikTok. There's my old man moment for the day. So check him out over there on TikTok, No Shot Bot TTV. His stuff is very entertaining. Enjoy it. Donate, all that good stuff. Give him a follow. And folks, that's our show. We're going to be getting out of here. We're 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. Very excited. Like I said, we're going to be doing a reaction episode live up there in Traverse City. Alex and myself, we're going to have some guests joining us. Good friend of the show, guy who's been on our show before, Ray Collins. So he'll be joining us. And we're going to be having Andrew on the show, Steele Twins Andy. He'll be joining us. He's also been on our show in the past. So we're going to have a good time up there. We're going to be watching the NFL draft. You can join us for that. Crack open a cold one. and enjoy it. You can grab yourself a bite, and we're going to have some fun. So, folks, till next time, we will see you right here on the Outside Blitz.
I bet you see us next time. And with that, pow, we're gone.